MLB came out today. I'm going to try to find the tweet if I can, or if someone can try to find the tweet. Basically, it started with the Marlins. The Marlins played the Phillies this weekend, an opening day weekend. And it came out today, the Marlins, who are supposed to play the Orioles.
Yes.
They had to cancel the game today because they had some crazy number, like 14 people or something like that, players test positive and 2 coaches test positive for coronavirus. So they canceled the game. Understandable. I think that's not crazy out of the loop. But I knew once that came out, all right, they played the Phillies. When are we going to hear about the Phillies? And soon enough, the Phillies canceled their game because I think they had some people test positive. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Not even sure. We know they were exposed.
But I know they were exposed, and I think they had a bunch of people test positive. So they canceled the Phillies-Yankees game that was supposed to happen. I think the Yankees were supposed to play, or Mets, I don't know. But they were supposed to play them tonight as well, so they canceled that game. So it was the Yankees. So now they're having a meeting today, Monday the 27th. Major League Baseball is talking with the owners, commissioner, the league officials. Do we have a season? Do we bother playing the rest of the season? And I am in serious doubts. I don't think that they're gonna. I think that my main belief on this is they're not in a confined space where they're subject to get the virus other places, so it's more likely they're gonna bring it in. There was already so much animosity going into the season between the owners and the players. The owners don't really want to play the season anyway. So I don't foresee, and the players don't really want to play. It sounds like they want to play, but they want to play. They're kind of already in a bad place from these owners, like, because they were getting screwed. And I just don't see it. I don't see them playing the season. We've already seen a bunch of players drop out this year. Justin Verlander retracted a little bit, but he's out. He's supposedly out for the near distant future. Like, people are dropping like flies for a 60-game season, and I don't see it happening. I don't. And I blame a little bit on Manfred. I don't blame Manfred for the outbreak happening. I don't blame him for them catching it. I blame him for not having the proper protocols in place because you had to see it. I said, what's going to happen when 5, 6, 10 of these guys get coronavirus, test positive? What are we going to do? Are we going to shut down for 2 weeks and then try to replay? And even today, I guess you cancel the game, but why can't the Orioles and the Yankees play a series?
Yeah.
They both don't play. And I mean that's not a big concern. They get a couple extra days off. Yeah. Or they're making up down the road, but it's like they don't have protocols in place to fix this, and I think it's not looking good.
It's the classic case. This starts from the top down, where they should have been contacting medical professionals and they should have been contacting people and saying, look, what if these scenarios happen? What are our policies and protocols going to be? How are we going to handle this? And what is our long-term game plan? And more importantly, what is a realistic idea of what we can do? And quite frankly, how they're handling this is not appropriate, I would think. The reason being, number one, if any sports team, you have to have a bubble. You have to take the quarantine seriously. You have to tell these players, look, if you want to play this game, whether it's baseball, football, hockey, whatever, you're going to have to commit to it, and you can't leave. You can't go out and do stuff. And it really does suck to lose your freedoms and lose your ability to do this stuff. But the problem is if you don't, then you can't have the sport at all. And not for nothing, then you don't play. And more important thing is, does the franchise survive? Does the game survive? And do you even make any money at that point? Because that becomes the big question. Again, what happens if the Red Sox, not that they're going to, what happens if the Red Sox goes under and they just go bankrupt? Not that they would.
Yeah.
But then, do they still play? Do they still pay the players? Or what happens if they say, you know what, you were going to get a contract, but you know what, we lost so much money this year because of people getting sick and us not being able to pay. We're not going to sign all these guys. So it's in a lot of their best interest to say, look, you have to buckle down. And it sucks, but it's what you have to do.
Well,
there's no other way.
On that note, I just had something break on my phone, and it said that according to this article that came out on CBS Sports 1 minute ago, or 13 minutes ago, sorry, it says the MLB has no plans to cancel or pause the 2020 season after the Marlins coronavirus outbreak.
Wow.
So, you know what? I'm going to call this.
They don't have any plans.
I'm going to call this right now.
Wait, do you mean they don't have plans as in they're not canceling it?
They have no plans to cancel. Yeah. It's going to continue.
Wow.
I'm going to call this right now. A bunch of players are going to get together and say no.
They said Manfred and the own. I'm sorry. I know we're on air. I'm trying to skim this. R.J. Anderson. I don't know if we have to shout out the writer of this article, but that's who wrote it.
Yeah. That's right.
Of CBS Sports, he said Manfred and the owners intend to instead this is quoted, redouble the health directives, such as players wearing masks or facial coverings in the clubhouse, and reinforce on-field behavior prohibited
behavior? Or?
Yeah, something like that. Against gestures like high fives.
That's not going to stop that.
Sorry, I'm trying to just quickly... because there are no clear guidelines in the agreement between the union and the players' union and the league as it pertains to what would prompt a shutdown. That I'm trying to not to read all the junk.
Yeah, but I think we get the point of what you're saying.
So the decision can't be made by Manfred alone. It has to be made by everyone else.
So why didn't they discuss this before they started a season? Because at that point, it's worth delaying for a week or two just to get all the protocols in place and understand what would happen and what constitutes, a team having to either scrap a few games or what would happen if you have to ask a bunch of players, hey, you can't come back. You have to get through this in quarantine and all that. And plus, when you consider because of the incubation period and plus the tests take, you take a couple of days to come back. Now, here's a question you might know. Here's an answer you might know. Do they have enough space in between games or after every game they have enough time to get tested and have the results back before they go to another game?
From my people that I know that work in baseball, I think and from hearing what they, from radio and stuff, they get tested every 2 days. They get the results every 2 days. So
that's not the...
I don't know what you're asking.
What I'm saying is does their schedule allow... so that you have to wait, for instance, do they have games that are more than 3 or 4 days apart? Is every game for a team? Well, then this can't work.
Every day. Of course they play every day. The Red Sox played Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
But then this is what I'm getting at, is because you don't get the results for a couple of days. What that means is this spreads very quickly, and it screws over both teams. The only way to do this, in which people would actually be safe from the virus, is very simple. You play a game, at the end of the game, everybody gets tested. Once the tests come back that everybody's fine, you play that same day later that day. That's the only way to do that.
You can't. First of all, it takes 2 days to get the test results back.
Exactly.
Second of all, they don't play different teams every other day. They play series every 3 days. So when they get tested that first day or the day before they come in, they know in the middle, if someone tests positive or a bunch of people test positive within that 3 to 4 days stretch, they know. So they know, like the Yankees and the Phillies and the
yes, but then
Marlins.
To know who is infected from that person, you have to then take another test and wait another couple of days.
What do you mean?
All right, let me break this down.
No, just say you're saying if they which individual.
By the time they know somebody's infected, everybody's already there. Correct?
There's nothing you can do for that.
But that's what I'm getting at. Is they would be smarter to say, look, you test just before, test a couple of days before the game series starts. If everybody's clean,
you can't do that.
Then why not?
It's going to be near impossible to do a whole season. You want to play 60 games.
I don't care if they only play 30 games.
Well,
I'd rather them play 30 games than play no games, because that's where this is going. Where the entire thing would just be shut down.
I'd rather them play no games than 30 games.
Why?
Because that's such a small sample size. You're not going to get the best team. You're not going to get the best team in 30 games.
You're not going to get the best team winning now anyway, will you?
But you're going to get more closer to a team that plays. I totally disagree with playing 30 games, and I know about probably hundreds of baseball players that disagree with that statement.
That's 30,
because let's say this, let's say the Red Sox are somewhat, they're bad. They're bad right now. Pitching's terrible.
Okay.
But let's say something happens and they go on a stretch and they beat a couple good teams. Yeah. They have a good week. Already in this season that they have, if you have one bad week and you're a good team, you're screwed. Yeah. You can't play. Because I think they did the math. I heard someone on the math. Every game this year counts for 2.5 games in a regular season. Yeah. So round it up to 3.
But I don't think you're getting at what I'm getting at. I understand your argument.
No, but you're saying that it's better to have 30 games.
It's better to have 30 games than what's going to happen is none at all down the road.
I'd rather have no games than 30 games. I'd rather not have a season. I'd rather have everyone stay healthy and not get hurt for a crap 30 games. I guarantee if they did 30 games, Mike Trout would sit out. Yeah. All the big players would sit out. Someone's going to win a World Series that doesn't deserve it, and that's the main thing.
Then I would argue they don't deserve it if they play 60 games. It's not a regular season.
But if they play,
how many games do they have in a regular season?
They play 162.
Yeah, so this is less than half
of
a regular season. So you get less than half of a World Championship, correct?
But of those 60 games, they have the players that matter, and not saying that players don't matter, but the main players like Mike Trout, they have, up until he got hurt, Justin Verlander, they have Mookie Betts, they have the Bellinger, they have these guys that are star players in the game. I guarantee if you play a month season, the Rocks are playing 40 games.
It wouldn't be a month season. It would be stretched
30
over
games?
It would be stretched over a longer period of time because you have to wait for the test to come back.
I think that it would be foolish to play 30 games. I'd rather them wait it out and see.
Because you're looking. Because if we do the math here, we have until what, mid-November, correct? Mid-November for the end of the season.
I'm not 100%. Oh, I have no Wi-Fi. What happened?
I don't know. I saw Wi-Fi.
It's something like that.
Because think about this: if you're gonna do, it's what, 3 or 4 games in a series typically against a team, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there.
It's anywhere from 2. Sometimes they do 2-game series. Sometimes they do 4.
So why don't they make all of them like a 3-game series?
Mainly
make them all 3-game series. And what happens is, let's just say you travel on Monday, and when you arrive, you do the tests, and the tests come back on like Wednesday. And then you do the series from Wednesday through Friday, and then they travel back home, and you just do that. Because that way you would have at least, then you have the 1 day off. So yeah, you could still do probably 40 games between now and, mid-November. The question becomes, what's the difference between 60 and 40? When with 40, you could at least control this, and you can almost not guarantee, but you can have a much better control. What's going on? I don't see the difference between like that number. Like I don't know why it's a big deal.
Because it from a baseball, someone that's played baseball and been in the baseball business, 20 games is a big difference in a season.
Yeah.
So why are we gonna? First of all, 60 games. What took months to agree on.
Yeah.
For a season, for people to agree on.
Yeah.
That took months to agree on. Some people maybe wanted less. Owners or someone wanted more. 60 was like the agreed upon middle ground. Also, 60 games, like I said, is already, you're right, it is a tough call on who deserves to win. That's why they made a little bit of leeway in that, where they said more teams are making the playoffs. Yeah. That was kind of their way to make up for the teams that if they have like a bad couple weeks, then they can maybe say, all right, they have that little like buffer zone. That if they have those bad weeks, they like, all right, maybe we don't have to get to first place, or we don't have to make that wild card position. Now we have it doubled. Now we have more of a chance to make the playoffs. I just think I don't. It's not that I don't. There's a lot of problems with how the MLB set up this season. There's a lot of problems how they did that. I think no one denies that. I think there's a lot of things they didn't account for. They just said, all right, we'll figure it out as we go. Or maybe they didn't think of it.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is there was things that could have been thought of, and I mentioned it. I said, it's going to be impossible to go this entire season with someone not catching it. It's just going to,
they're all eventually going to be exposed to it as
they're going to have people test positive. Did I think it was going to be 3 days in? No. But they're going to have people test positive. They're going to have, in some cases, 8, maybe double digits people test positive.
In many cases, there might be almost a whole different team out in the field.
Think of it. There's 30 to 40 people play. Like, probably, I forget it's like 32. Maybe they upped it to 40. I forget what the total roster that they can have on an MLB roster this year is. You have all those people. You add probably 5 to 10 coaches in that thing. Now you're up to like 50 people. Mm-hmm. You add clubhouse staff on each side. That's like now probably 20 more. You have 70 people in a confined space. They're spreading it out. They are spreading it out, and they're doing a good job, at least from the Red Sox perspective.
From the social distancing.
They're social distancing everyone out. Everyone that I've seen, as long as they're not on the field, but in like the dugout and stuff like that area, they're wearing masks. They're doing a good job at that. But it's nearly impossible to keep people from catching this and having 70 people in a confined space. It's impossible.
And
You're
that's
going to
with
have
almost
people
any
test
sport,
positive.
to be honest with you, you know?
Because now, I heard it, now the Marlins or the, who is it? The visiting clubhouse of the Phillies, they're all being quarantined now because they all were exposed to the Marlins. They were like close quarters. They were doing their laundry. They were, setting up food. They were cleaning their stuff.
Exactly.
Like they were in there.
You're going to be in close proximity, close contact, and especially in something like baseball and football, where you have a lot of teams, and also hockey as well, when you have teams in locker rooms with also eating areas and clubhouses and stuff. This isn't like tennis, where you can just keep separate, or you know what I mean?
But the difference is what I made a point earlier in the show. The difference between baseball and, let's say, hockey or basketball is hockey and basketball are using the bubble.
Yes.
They're using a confined space, spread out, but confined space, and saying you cannot leave.